So now we're going to, administer the oath of office to our new, 3 trustees.
We need each of you to grab your microphone and stand up for me, please. And we can either do this all together, or we can do it individually. Because you have to repeat after me. Together? Okay, good. So I'm going to say a little line, and then you guys are going to say it after me, okay? I state your name, do solemnly swear.
Solemnly swear.
This is not going very good. That's okay.
Our names are fast.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith.
I will bear true faith.
And allegiance to. The Constitution of the United States.
The California Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservations.
Without any mental reservations.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully.
That I will well and faithfully.
Discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
So we'll have some stuff as soon as we get done here. We'll have you sign some stuff because we got to send it to the elections office.
Okay.
Does anybody want to say anything to the crowd and the constituents out here?
Hi.
Okay, then are we good to move on to public comments on closed session items? So at this time, any person may address the board on any closed session item or any item not listed on the agenda pursuant to the Brown Act. The board cannot consider issues or take action on requests during this comment period. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. So do we have any comment on any closed?
I think we have somebody right there walking into
Oh, okay, do I need to? Okay, yes.
I just want to say welcome. It's so nice to have fresh faces and the old board, but it's nice to have you guys here, and I look forward to a very good, prosperous year. I know we're going to go through some hurdles, but look past that. I know Betha screwed up a lot of things, and so did some other people, but look past that and just focus on our kids and our community. That's it. I'm so happy to see all of you here, every one of you. Thank you all. I gotta fly. I gotta go deliver gifts.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments?
She's got to come.
Okay, so our closed session agenda items are D1 public employee performance evaluation, superintendent. D2 public employee appointment. The board will meet regarding the salary or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits for the position of superintendent, an unrepresented employee. D3 public employee appointment. The board will meet in closed session to discuss an addendum to an employment contract with the superintendent. D4 conference with labor negotiators. And at this time, we will move into closed session at 4:34. To reconvene to open session at 6 p.m. There is no reportable action from closed session. So next will be Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, correct. Oh, okay. Oopsies. Sorry. I'm learning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Approval of agenda order. The board reserves the right to change the order in which agenda items are discussed and or acted upon at this meeting. Subject to further action by the board, the agenda for this meeting is to be approved as presented. Items may be added to this agenda for discussion or action only as permitted by the Brown Act.
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay, I have a motion from Trustee Garrison.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second from Trustee Lopez White. Preferential?
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay? And no one is absent. Okay, so public comment on consent and non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent or non-agenda item. Pursuant to the Brown Act, during this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. So do we have any public comment? Okay. And then moving on to closed session reportable action. I accidentally went out of order. There is no reportable action from closed session. Okay, now on to board organizational items. J1, consideration and possible action to select a board president.
You can take nominations.
Oh, okay.
I nominate Jenny Candelario or Trustee Jenny Candelario or to be our president. She was a clerk last term or year, so following the order.
Oh, I'll second. This is one, sorry.
Okay, so I have a motion from Trustee Garrison to nominate me as president. And then I have a second from Trustee Lopez White.
I mean, do you want to do it?
Oh, no, I'd love to. I'm excited. Sorry, it's like a mix of nerves.
Okay, you got it.
And just kind of like running through stuff, but I'll become more comfortable, I promise. No, absolutely, I accept.
Okay.
All right.
So then we'll open it. So all those in favor, or sorry,
No,
preferential?
you got it.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any nays? Okay, and everybody is. Well, thank you, guys. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, now on to consideration and possible action to select a board clerk. Oh, okay, so the board clerk essentially is there to help and kind of work with the president. Note-taking, kind of facilitation if the president may be absent and whatnot, and so that's kind of, right?
How would you
Yeah.
describe test?
They'll do the,
Test anything, any actions?
Yes. Okay. So do we have any nominations for clerk?
I don't care. Whoever wants it.
Okay, I would like to actually nominate Trustee Lopez White. Sure. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so seconded by, and I'm going to get this, it's Zekowitz, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, Trustee Zekowitz seconds. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Nope, and nobody's absent. Okay. Now, consideration and possible action to appoint the superintendent as secretary to the board.
I move to appoint the superintendent to be secretary to the board.
Okay, I have a motion from Trustee Garrison.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, a second from Trustee Lopez White. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay, and no absences. Well, there you go. Now, J4, consideration and possible action to select a voting representative an alternate for vacancies on the Sonoma County Committee on School District Organization.
So this,
Can we explain that in the
Yes.
terms that I?
Can we explain? Yeah, I can't at this moment. For some reason, it's completely lost on me.
So Sonoma County has to have a committee on school district reorganization, and so what you're doing is basically you would be nominating one person plus an alternate in case there's a vacancy on there, so that they need to be able to convene and somebody can't make it, somebody can be on there from our district as well. I shouldn't say in my tenure, but I've rarely seen it happen to where somebody gets appointed to it. Normally there's a panel that sticks with the panel that's there.
I want to say in the past, we always just designate the president.
Correct. Yeah,
And
I believe so.
I was just going to say that, yes.
Yes.
so is that your motion?
Yeah, I'll make a
The president and
motion.
the clerk is essentially what, because it's the same thing.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. Well, is it okay if I motion myself too? Okay.
Yes.
I will make a motion to select the board president and board clerk as the alternative for vacancies on Sonoma County Committee.
Okay, I have a motion from trustee Lopez White for the president and clerk to be those positions. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, trustee Zekowitz. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. Okay, so J5, discussion and appointment to district committees.
So I just handed you a piece of paper that has the 8 different committees that we have for the board, and we generally have some of them we have 2 people go to the meetings, and then sometimes we have just a person that goes and an alternate. I believe that the boosters has just a person that goes and an alternate, is that right?
Correct.
And then I think CARE is the same way, right?
And Sarb.
And Sarb.
Karen Sarb.
Okay, and then the rest of would be on there. So, anyway, every year we come up with these. Some of them you'll see are already set in dates, and some of them have not been set on dates. So, and we tried to get as best we could about where they are in approximate times that we could.
And then some of them, is my mic on? Some of them are during the day,
Correct.
where I know Jenny
Yeah.
teaches.
There are
so
certain
she
things that I
can't
just, yeah.
Right.
do those. So
Measure H doesn't have a time on there. We've toyed with having it a little bit later on in the day, and so we're still up in the air on that. It kind of depends on who's on it. And that's why we put that one too also, because if somebody wanted to be on that, and the person couldn't make it during the day, we could always put it at 4 o'clock, let's say. And then the SARD meetings are pretty locked in as far as that
They're-
goes. And then the school subcommittee, they just moved now to twice a year, and they're going at 10 a.m. because due to employees and staff that need to be there is
Okay.
why that one is. So, and that one is also in person for that part. The career tech ed ones generally do it in the evening also. I just said they haven't been set yet.
so DLAC's usually in the evening.
After school, yeah,
Okay.
yes.
6 p.m. here.
Oh yeah, DLAC, I'm sorry, I thought about LCAP.
Sorry, I was
LCAP's
just
generally
going
after
down.
school
Yeah.
also.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is DLAC?
DLAC is the district,
English language. No.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It's that's the district English language, God, I always forget the A. Advisory committee.
Advisory committee.
That we have, but each school site has an ELAC committee, and then the DLAC is kind of a culmination or a bring of all those together. So that's where the district, that's part, we usually have them here in the library.
And I'll just say my first 6 years, I was on DLAC, and I attended all the ELACs and the DLAC because we did not know that I only had to attend the DLAC.
It's not that we can't.
I'm sure they
You
encourage
can,
the
you,
other
you
ones, but-
can, yes,
Yes.
but
And then the SARB board, SARB one is the school attendance review board meetings that are there. The LCAP is the local control,
Accountability plan.
okay, accountability plan.
So-
And then the school subcommittee is basically just us making sure that we're working together on those things. The CTE is a career technical ed, which involves, ag as well as wood shop and those. And then the CARE Foundation is our foundation that's off basically from the community. And then the Eagle Pride Boosters is the Booster Club. And then the Measure H is basically a meeting to be able to talk about the different projects that are going on with the Measure H
That's funded
funds.
by Measure
With the bonds,
H.
yeah.
The bond funds, yes.
So we're looking for a representative?
So
Yeah,
we
so I
have-
mean, we just kind of talk about who would like to do what. There's really no, I mean, if, my suggestion would be is if you have a committee you'd like to be on, that you show a lot of interest in, then maybe mention that. But other than that, the idea would be really is in your 4 years, if you were to be here, you should be able to be on most within your 4 years, right? So that way you can kind of get a breadth of what we kind of do with the district as well. But if there are certain ones that are, or for example, in Jackie's case, she might have been on other ones and might want to do something different than she's been on before. So there's really no rhyme or reason for it.
Well, I know one of the ones that I would love to be on that I haven't yet is the boosters. Just because obviously I can't do during the actual morning hours. So I would really like to be on that one if that's all right with everybody.
Yeah.
What's, I guess, we kind of know each other's availability. What are your guys' availability?
I could take all mornings. I make
Oh,
my
okay.
own schedule, so.
Yay. Jackie and I have kind of rotated those because we've been pretty available.
Yeah.
And these are ones I'm interested in as well, so.
And trustee Ogamian?
But with that said, we're able to.
Do we have to
attend
do
them.
decide right now, today? Is it?
So yeah, this
Yes.
is what
Okay.
we were.
The,
we are
you know what?
dedicating
I
us.
can make my. I'll defer to everyone else. Then I will take the others because I have ability to
Oh.
move my schedule.
All right.
And I would also
you.
say that if we do set it tonight, and then you find that day doesn't work, they can always change committees.
Yeah.
It's just, it's nice to have them
Okay.
now, and
And
then that
that's
way we can reset.
Also, we have the alternate, like, because one year Jackie was on the SARB committee and I was the alternate, and there was one meeting that she couldn't make, and then I went
Okay.
to it.
So like,
Yeah.
And that's how that works.
I mean, so were you thinking taking a SARB?
I could,
I mean, I really enjoyed being on SARB.
And I just did it, and I liked it. It's
right.
a
So
great team.
I'll take Measure H, SARB, school subcommittee, and Care Foundation.
That's a lot.
Well, let's
that
write
guy
them all
go?
down
Yeah.
and then we can
Yes.
like
So-
kind
Don't
of.
say no to that.
Please do challenge it.
So, Measure H, Chad,
Yes.
and then SARB, school and city. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm writing all that down.
So
too.
again, Measure H would have 2 that would go.
Yes.
DLAC should have 2 that would go. SARB is just the 1 and an alternate. LCAP would be 2 that go. So school subcommittee would be 2 that go. CTE, yeah, but one and an alternate. CARE would also be 1 and an alternate, I believe. And then the boosters would be 1 and an alternate.
And I'll blow it down for CTE as well.
Well, okay.
You know you're now on 4, right?
I know
You're
that's
jumping-
that's.
You sure you
You're
wanna take
already on 4. He's already
They're-
on 4.
They're not weekly, so yeah,
Okay.
I can adjust the schedule accordingly.
Yes, I'll join you in DLAC, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Still need hope.
Oh wait.
Wait,
No.
So you're on 5 then, because
Yeah.
you said Measure H, SARB, school and subcommittee,
And then
Care.
CTE.
and CTE.
Okay.
No, he
Yeah.
said CARE. He didn't say
You're right.
CTE.
It's like,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, maybe that's a little overzealous there.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna be.
Let's take
Yeah.
off CTE. No CTE.
Well, and I'd actually like to do CTE and LCAP, if that's all right with everybody.
Okay.
And you put boosters.
Yep. So I could do booster, LCAP, and CTE.
So what is available for Trustee Ogamian?
So ELAC, DLAC, and then we need,
An alternate on the others.
yeah, an
Or
alternate for the others.
Others.
No, you don't have me on anything yet.
No.
so
Or me.
I was being.
Okay, well, I'll take off one of
Well,
mine.
you can take it.
The ones I'm just thinking the ones I haven't done. I have not done DLAC yet. I have not done the LCAP yet, and I have not done the boosters, or
Well, Ashley, if you want to take my LCAP, you're more than welcome to.
is there 2 on?
Oh, there
LCAP?
are 2 on LCAP,
Yes.
aren't there? Okay, so you and me?
I can do I'll go in on LCAP.
Okay.
It's always
And then-
nice when everybody's watching you guys too. I just want to let you know that.
And then did you say DLAC?
Yes.
So
Okay, so Gamian, trustee Gamian,
That one needs two, though.
Yep.
I can do DLAC
And
also.
then look this way. Okay. Who do you want to be my alt for boosters since you're, like
Are we
your hand, or do you want to do
complete
something
with
different?
That's what I was gonna ask.
'Cause
The only thing I haven't done is school city subcommittee or CTE. I've done all of the others. So I can do whatever.
Okay, so we'll put you down for a school city
Sure.
subcommittee. Okay.
That's only one.
And then CTE?
Sure.
And that needs an alternate?
Candelaria
Yeah.
or is already on it.
Oh,
There's
okay.
two.
Yeah. And then we need a care alternate, Measure H
Segowitz is already on
alternate.
there.
You wanna be
Yeah,
an
we need a
alternate?
second person for Measure H.
I could do Measure H. Unless you wanted to stay.
I've been on that for a while. I don't care. It's totally,
Oh.
Okay, so
Well,
then
do
we
you
just
wanna
need
stick it out?
an alternate for care and an alternate for, well,
Sorry.
no, they have two
That's
for
fine.
care.
No, Care only.
Oh, it is now
There's
just one?
one
Okay.
and then an alternate. I'll
Okay.
be the SARB alternate.
Okay.
So yeah, an alternate for Care and an alternate for boosters.
Okay.
Who?
So,
It's Jackie.
Chad.
Oh,
Chad
but
and Jackie?
where else do we need an
Bohemian
alternate?
needs another.
Oh, okay, so do we want to put them on
Does CARE have an alternate?
care?
Okay.
Okay.
And then who?
Yeah,
Yeah.
trustee Yagowitz, are you good with being the alternate
Yeah.
for care?
And
Okay.
then what about? Do you want an alternate for boosters?
Yes.
I have it written down,
You have
Kathleen.
written down, you want to?
I just need an alternate for boosters.
Do you want to say it once you get done?
Do you wanna
We
be
can
the
do whole
alternate?
thing.
I can
Yeah.
be the alternate for boosters.
Okay.
Let me just see, because this might be a lot. You want to pass that?
Yeah. There's one for Kathleen. Keep on switching up the queue.
We don't have it as action, so you're just on it.
Okay.
We're pointing you.
Okay.
Secretary duties.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we, wait, can we go over that real quick so I
Yeah.
know I
Yes,
got it
let's
right?
make sure.
Well, we'll send everybody an email.
Okay.
But right now, it looks like on DLAC, we have Ogamian and Ashley. And then we have Measure H, we have Chad and Jackie. Also on SARB is Chad and Jackie. And then we have Jenny and Ashley on LCAP. Subcommittee would be Chad and Jackie. CTE would be Jenny and Jackie. CARE would be Chad and Double O. And then Eagle Boosters would be Jenny and Ashley.
Okay.
And we'll send an email out to everybody too, to let you guys know what's going on. You can go on to
Okay.
J6.
So J6, consideration, I'm not used to my microphone being on all the time. Consideration of adoption of regular board meeting calendar for 2025, page 12 of our packet.
Yeah, so we were recommending to change it to the second Wednesday. I believe there's also where we're currently at, I think seems to be a lot of meetings during that same time, and I believe city council meets that same day as well. So we're looking to try to change it up a little bit to give a little bit more spread out. But it really is up to you guys too. It's just what we're required to do is to set a meeting calendar for the year. Not that it can't be changed, but you're not supposed to change it. That way the public knows that to count on a certain meeting at a certain time of each month. And you'll notice that a couple of them have, like in June, it has 2 dates. The reason why is because the LCAP and the budget can't be approved in the same meeting as the public hearing. But the rest of them just have those as regular dates. So that's just what we're proposing on there. And it would still be 6 o'clock is what we're still talking about, 6 o'clock on the second Tuesday instead of second Wednesday instead of the third Wednesday.
So June, it's the 3rd. We have the
Right,
18th, 19th,
because
the
we have
3rd.
to move it back a little bit because of the timing.
The
for
ti-
that.
okay.
Correct, to get our budget stuff back, yes. From the county,
Yeah.
it behooves us to go a little farther down to create more time.
I was gonna say.
So you would, the motion would approve the second Tuesday,
The second Wednesday.
or the count,
Second.
keep saying, second Wednesday with the double date in June, or you could say the calendar and then also start at 6 PM for that part.
I will move to approve the adoption of the regular board meeting calendar for 2025 as the second Wednesday of every month, with June being the third Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, I have a motion from trustee Lopez White.
Did you say at 6 o'clock?
At
Yes.
6 o'clock. I did.
I'll second that.
Okay, trustee Zekowitz, seconds. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Nope. Okay. So on to consent calendar. The CUSD Board of Trustees utilizes a consent calendar for items that require the approval of the board, but are of routine nature. They act upon these items in one vote. Any member may remove an item for additional questions. Board members receive their agendas and backup materials 7 days in advance of our meetings. They have the opportunity to ask questions and to do research prior to our meeting. It is their intent to handle the routine items expeditiously, so they have time to address issues that are more serious. So basically, agenda items, guys, K1, approval of minutes from November 20th, budget updates, agreement with Christy White, certified public accountants to conduct the district's annual audit through June 30th, 2027, document tracking services licensing agreement for document creation and support, declaration of obsolete equipment and authorization to donate, sell, or dispose of, and then we have our personnel hiring. So would anyone like to pull any of those items? Okay, so motion to approve?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion from trustee Garrison and then a second from trustee Lopez White. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. So we can go on to our association reports, K3 California, or CSEA, Chapter 170. Oh, no,
Yeah, he's coming.
he's coming up.
Good evening. My name is Carlos Jimenez. I'm the president for our local chapter 170, CSEA. And first of all, I just want to welcome all to the new board members. Welcome. You guys are definitely arriving at an interesting time in our district. With that said, I look forward to working well with you guys, with the school district. And given that we're going into the holidays, I know there's some rough and tough decisions to be made, but I feel that you guys will be fair, and wish you guys all a happy holidays. And that's it. Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank you so much. Okay, now on to Teachers Association of Cloverdale.
Good evening. Renee Duvander, Teachers Association of Cloverdale President. I missed the meeting where I got to express tax gratitude to trustees Addison and Mendoza Torres as for their service, but I would like to extend that gratitude. And we want to extend a welcome to our newly elected trustees, Zekowitz and Okay, okay, I will learn. And welcome back, Trustee Lopez White. We greatly appreciate and respect the commitment you've made to serve our community. We look forward to collaborating with the entire board and the district as we work together to provide the best possible education for Cloverdale students. It is this shared vision that truly makes our district special. Yesterday, we had the privilege of gathering for our annual holiday party, and we want to thank everyone who attended. It's always a joy to take the time to laugh and enjoy each other's company as a community. A special thanks goes to Geyserville Grill, whose employees, many of whom are our former students and current students and their families, and they generously donated additional food to the celebration, which was appreciated. This gesture is a kind reminder of the incredible relationships that make Cloverdale such a remarkable place. These connections are something we should celebrate and use to attract others to join our district. However, as we all know, it remains a challenge to recruit and retain teachers when our district's pay ranks in the bottom third of all districts in the county. We hope we can come together to creatively address this issue and the others we face. Cloverdale deserves the very best educators for our students, and we believe that by working collaboratively, we can make that happen. Thank you for your time and for all that you do for our schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now on to school reports. L1, Jefferson Elementary School.
Good evening. My report is as submitted. However, I did want to, we have a late edition. Tomorrow at 8:30 in our multipurpose room, we have our TK students presenting their winter program. And so I wanted to extend an invitation to any board member or anybody in our audience who would like to join. It's from 8:30 to 9, and it's really cute, and it's really fast, though. So you're more than welcome to come. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to L2, Washington School Report.
Good evening. Welcome to new board members. Can't wait to kind of get to know you and see how all of this goes. You have my report as submitted, but I wanted to take a moment and point out that we have our California League of Middle Schools Outstanding Teacher nominee here tonight. Sorry to put you on the spot, but go ahead and stand. This is Leanne Henry. She teaches digital citizenship as the elective and social studies. And just a fabulous teacher, and we're going to go and have a big kind of celebratory night on Friday night, and she gets to make a speech, and we're really excited to go and support her.
Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have a question, and it may come to it's brought up in other places, but the Youth Truth Survey you mentioned, with the questions in that, who comes up with the questions that are in the Youth Truth? Is it like
It's
the state?
It's actually it's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's where it originated.
Okay.
And so these questions that's all across the United States.
Okay, so we
Same.
couldn't filter in some of our questions because it's just
We can
populated?
filter in some of our questions, but Washington did not. We didn't add anything. Sometimes they ask you ahead of time, hey, do you have a focus that you want us to ask about? We didn't, and I don't know if anyone
Okay.
else did.
Okay, thank you.
Now moving on to Cloverdale High School and JEH Continuation High School.
Good evening, everyone. You have my report as submitted. To welcome the new board members, I wanted to give a little gift to them, and then I brought it up with my CTE department, and they said it's a little awkward just to give 2 out of the 5 a gift, so why don't we give it to all of them? So you all have a cutting board there for you, made by our construction class, and you have a floral arrangement made by our new floral design classes. So these are part of our CTE pathways. CTE is career technical education, and so usually when you think of CTE, you think of like building a birdhouse, Breakfast Club style. But there's a lot more to it. There's just the different industry sectors, and last year we had 2 CTE pathways. This year we have 6, and so these are some of the things that are the cool products that our students make from these classes. So welcome.
Thank you. I do have something for Mr. Harper.
I forgot to bring Nicole.
So under JEH, I just wanted to publicly say that we had 3 JEH students graduate, so that's exciting. And I know they're doing, you mentioned their exhibitions this week. In the future, I would love, and when we first did it, we were able to attend their presentation. So if that's something in the future that the board can attend, I would love to attend that.
Great.
So if you could pass that on to them. I don't want to overwhelm them. I would want them to be like prepared that we're coming to to watch that, so maybe in the future. And then I just wanted to also acknowledge, I know we had multiple students reclassify, but having 14 students at the high school is the hardest to be able to get reclassified in, so I just wanted to acknowledge the students that were able to do that. That's huge, so good job.
Thank you. We're quite proud of that. I compiled data from every comprehensive high school in Sonoma County, and Cloverdale High School has the highest EL progress rate in all of Sonoma County comprehensive high schools. And so that's something we're going to look at our PD day is that data. But yes, we are very proud of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we can easily invite the board to come to the exhibitions because the superintendent and administration is invited. I attended 2 today, and I'm attending a couple tomorrow. So in the future, we can totally do that.
Great, thank you.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Okay, now special education and student services report. Oh, and I don't see Nicole.
She's been sick the last few days.
Okay, so as submitted.
Let me quote her, as submitted.
Okay. Now on to you.
I think she just didn't want to defend Forrest anymore, is why she probably stepped out. Mine's as submitted also.
Okay. So maintenance, operations, and transportation report. Garrity?
Yeah, you have that.
Yep. Okay. So as submitted?
Yes, ditto.
Okay, so Hannah?
Our students had their Thanksgiving break the last few weeks of November. All of our sports teams have stayed very active, having numerous tournaments and games throughout the past month. For the 2024 Sonoma County Office of Education, CHS presented its student showcases of our CTE classes like floral, construction, farm and table, art, child development, and animal anatomy. And our school also had a fun door decorating competition within our advisory classes to bring some holiday spirit to the campus. And currently the school is at the halfway point of finals week. And with the stressful time for students, ASB members created a motivational post-it wall in our main hallway to encourage students through their testing. And yeah, with these last few days, students are pushing through, preparing for winter break.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Okay, now on to board reports. Now Trustee Ogamian and Trustee Zekowitz, obviously, we're gonna, unless you guys would like to share anything, participated in anything that you'd like to share.
It's all good. You guys can continue sharing because we just got here.
Ditto.
Okay, then Trustee Lopez White, anything to report?
I did attend a Measure H meeting. It was just the superintendent and I, and we have a new, what would you say, representative from Van Pelt.
They're here.
Back here, so we met online. Nice to meet you in person. So that was, we'll go over Measure H, new consultant, there we go, to our district. And we have Measure H coming up on here, so we can talk about it then. And I also attended a SARB meeting, and like always, the SARB team is great. I think it's a great collaboration between everyone. It's very, I would say it's about attendance and getting kids to come to school, but it's a very supportive environment and trying to help the families get the kids to come to school and what they're facing and trying to get them. So I think Nicole's doing a great job, and as always, I appreciate her work and all of the admin that come to represent their school sites. I think everyone works together very well to try to focus on the kids and what they need and improve their attendance. Other than that, I'm just getting ready for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Garrison?
For boosters, I just wanted to report that the 8th grade girls had won back-to-back basketball champs, so congrats to them. That's really exciting. And then for the care board, we met last night. Thank you, TAC, for the invitation, but I had a prior engagement, so I attended the care board meeting, and January is board elections. There is the Giving Book Tree at Dalian Stage if anybody wants to go pick a book off the tree, and they can purchase it, and it goes to one of the 3 libraries at the school district. And Ms. Ferdinandson, the Washington Middle School principal, she presented a request for the fifth grade music after-school program for funding, and the board is going to meet to discuss how they can help with the after-school program, and it would be for fifth graders. There's 57 instruments between flute, clarinet, trumpet, and trombone. They had an assembly today about it and sent out permission slips, so they'll find out by Friday how much interest there is. So that was exciting as well. Thank you.
Can I ask, is that what Mr. Collins is working
Yes.
on, the fifth grade? That's awesome. Okay,
And then if, depending on how much interest for fifth grade, it could possibly open up to sixth grade.
That'd be awesome. That would be so awesome. Well, a couple of things for me. Number one, I got to go to my very first elementary holiday extravaganza for the first graders today at Jefferson. It was adorable. They did such a great job, and I do not know how all of them remembered, about 6 or 7 songs. I was highly impressed. Of course, my kid's a ham in the back row, so you could still see her. But that was really wonderful this morning to go to. I appreciate that. Started our governance series online last night. Really great kind of overview of what the series is going to be about. Great learning opportunities, which I'm looking forward to. And then also went to the championship game for the Sandy Mac basketball tournament. And I had never actually gone to one of those before. And so it was great just to see everyone. And Bernard is ridiculous, but go
Yeah,
them.
I'll
But
just-
everyone did such a great job, and it was awesome to go and watch. So
I'll add, and I think St. Bernard's has won twice, three
they are-
times in a row. They
Cloverdale
are a
was
tough
awesome,
team, and our
but yes.
Cloverdale did really good against
They did
them.
so well.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So that is the extent of my report. So on to superintendent report.
I don't have anything to report because you'll hear enough from me later.
Sounds good. Okay, so report discussion. So we have S1 Measure H update.
Yeah, we don't have anything right now. We got a few other things coming up.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then UTK, so S2 UTK Early Education Facilities Project update.
Same, a little later.
Okay, South Cloverdale property update.
So we are in, well, I've been in the process of going out there and walking around. I actually reported last time that there was no active water on the property, and that's incorrect. There's actually a spring on the property, so that actually brings potentially some fire mitigation cattle back into play, potentially. So there is quite a bit of water on there, actually, so I'm working on that with Michael Garrity to see what we can do to maybe do that. Our fence around the property could use some serious help. So anyway, we're trying to look at different ideas. Just again, we're talking about in the summertime, in spring to the summer, it's a fire hazard basically, right? So we're looking at trying to mitigate some of the fire stuff.
This is open discussion, right, to talk about?
Sure.
So- Yeah. Okay, so now that we know that there's a spring out there and we have an ag class in FFA, is that something we can look at?
That's something we
and
can look at.
work with?
This newly found spring for me is pretty new, like
Okay.
Sunday. So,
Cool.
yes, my plan is to, because it's been raining, so my plan is to maybe take Angelica out and stuff like that to see what's going on and see what we could possibly do. Yes.
And we realize springs run out of water.
This one apparently is pretty much
All
year round.
year? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. So, in talking with some of the neighbors, yes, they said it's a year-round spring. So,
Nice.
yeah.
That's a good sport.
Like I said, we got to do a little more research on it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
And then again, we have some other stuff coming up later on with
Okay.
easement and stuff like that too.
Okay, so then S4 MTSS update.
So our plan is, and we just talked about it yesterday in our admin meeting, is in January. Our plan is to give you guys a full update on what's going on with that and where we've come to at this point.
Okay.
And then do we want to, if you, just because I know it's a lot for me, if MTSS, like all these acronyms, just stop us and
Multi-tiered.
ask us.
Yeah.
Because it took a while to remember it all.
We're going to explain all of that next month.
Well, and I do have a question. Do we have any data that we're going, like any metrics that we're looking at to see, or is it just because obviously it's only been implemented for a semester, that maybe by the end of the year we could?
We're going to talk about it the next month about what we've been doing, working on to get there. So for that part,
Okay.
yes, we'll all come.
Question, I just noticed, I didn't realize this before, but in our packet, we have this music program.
But it's not on the agenda.
Okay. So, since MTSS starts with M, we could probably say it's the music one too. So we are, as we talked about before, we are basically trying to initiate it with that 5th grade stuff that we're talking about. So it's kind of our first step into it, see how that goes, what kind of interest we get for that part, and we'll be going forward with that.
Any other questions? Okay, so moving on to T1, consideration and acceptance of donations. I would like to recognize, there were various people that donated $1,140 to Cloverdale High School for SAT fees. CARE Foundation donated $1,020.03 to Cloverdale High School for freshman binders. And CARE also donated $1,184.40 to the Washington School Library. So thank you so much for those donations. So can I have a motion to?
Move to approve donations?
Okay, so I have a motion from Trustee Garrison.
I'll second.
Okay, second from Trustee Lopez White. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. So now, T2, consideration and possible approval of the delivery method for the Jefferson UTK Early Education Facility Project.
Yeah, so we have somebody here from Van Pelt that can, so there's a couple things at play here. We talked about last time that we have to be under contract for 90% of the project before the OPSC, which is the Office of Public School Construction, will release the funds for us to be able to release the funds for the project. However, it's a little scary to think about signing a $11.5 million project contract without the money, right? So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. So there are some ways for us to be able to hopefully not have as much at risk out there to be able to still get our funding. So Brian, right?
Aaron,
sorry.
no worries.
Sorry.
We're both big. You'll see us
Yeah,
walking
it was
around
Brian
once
and
in a
Aaron that are helping us, so.
Cool.
50-50 chance I had there.
while. No, you're good. Help me with the pronunciation of your last name. Sinistrato?
Sinistraro, yes.
Sinistrato, okay, cool.
And so Aaron is here to be able to kind of explain to you guys. I know that the 3 of you, at least the 2 of you, have had some experience with the lease back versus the straight bid. So anyway, go ahead.
Cool, definitely. So like he said, my name's Aaron Brazier. I'm project manager with Van Pelt Construction. Along with us on our team, we'll also be hanging out with Brian Cameron in the future, senior program and project manager at Van Pelt. And then we'll also bring on Johnette Johnson. She'll be a project coordinator, kind of handling a lot of the invoicing and pay apps and helping see through some of the loose ends on the construction projects. As far as the lease back, and speaking to Glenn, we know it's really important that we don't encumber too much funds. The lease back on this project works out really well because it allows us to bring on that contractor low at risk. So we would only bring them on for a really small pre-construction fee or no fee at all. And then you don't actually encumber the cost until you would see the GMP to the board, which is essentially the bid. What's really helpful about this is we're able to, the project already has been DSA approved through the Division State of Architects, and we already have a contractor on board for the modulars. So in a new construction project of this size, I think it's important that you kind of bring on a contractor and kind of be able to work in a team a little bit more rather than hard bidding the project and bringing on the lowest bid. So I think it's a good opportunity to start the project at a low cost, and once we get that GMP to the board for the total bid, then we'd be able to complete that 90% of the construction documents, which would allow us to then be 4 to 6 weeks out from receiving the funding. So that's just kind of the last little hang up, but we think it's best to go with the lease-back delivery method. Honestly, whatever the board, prefers for the delivery method, we could do it, but we do think that is the best option. Keeping costs low for now and allowing us to kind of work out any of the kinks, being we already have a contractor on board for the other part of the project.
Can you remind us who the contractor for the?
JL,
okay,
yeah, construction.
And they work with a lot of school districts.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah, they work on a ton of school districts. But But it is important in this kind of unique circumstance where the one contractor is not doing the site work and the buildings, doing the lease back interviews. I'm sure JL would actually come sit down for the interviews, and potentially we could bring them on for the site work as well and bring it all under one contractor. But if not for a project that has an extensive amount of site work and new modular buildings, it's important that they kind of work as a team, because there's so many moving parts when it comes to the stucco and the concrete timing and the foundations and whatnot, that we really need them to kind of be working on the same team. So I think it's a kind of a win-win situation for that.
And for historically, I think we did the lease back with the Washington gym, the football field,
the track and field.
the two-story. It's
Totally, yeah. No, it does. It works out really well for both parties. And then, yes, I've worked on multiple leasebacks as well. Right when we kind of came over and we seen kind of what was slated for the 2025 year, we felt like this was probably be the best delivery method to get that funding in, but not incur too much cost while we work on the bid to submit to the board.
Any questions?
Any questions at all? Yeah.
I guess, what's our timeline for starting? We have a,
Yeah,
do we
definitely.
know that?
I can speak to it as well, whatever works best.
We are through the DSA and well as the CDE. So now the next thing we're working on is trying to figure out the funding, basically. So
Yeah.
Well, we know the funding, we're figuring out when we're getting it, right?
the timing of the funding
Timing.
and the amount and the total amount of the funding too. It's kind of a double thing there. So we have to, because we put in for a financial hardship, which we're in a financial hardship, so we don't have the cash to put out front, right? So we have to we're dependent upon the state funding. And, but we don't know the total cost of what the project's gonna be until we bid it, right? And so
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because we can estimate it, but we don't know the actual cost of what it's gonna be for that part. And of course, the longer you wait, the more expensive things get as well. But again, like I said before, is they won't release the funds from the OPSC unless we're under contract for 90% of the job. So that's what we're trying to be able to get to that point, to be in contract, but yet have the contract be predicated on us getting the funding. Does that make sense?
I think it's also important to note as well that within that leaseback contract document, that we would put something in there that the contract is determinate on funding. So we're not on the hook to bring them on, to go through the interview process, to put together the best team for the project. And I've seen pre-con fees be as low as $0. I've seen them, be as high as 50, 75,000. So it just really depends. But when you do a best value selection, you're allowed to select the contractor that you want. So whatever of those kind of preferences for the district, we're able to kind of focus in on that and cater to that when we bring on that contractor.
So,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Essentially, the verbiage could be worked in contingent upon funds.
Oh,
being
yeah, most
available.
definitely. And then when you bring them on, the pre-con fee is going to be so small that in percentage compared to the construction cost, it's going to be quite small, that if it were to be delayed or plans changed, the pre-con would be much smaller and still would be useful down the line if needed.
Where are we in the timeline of having it completed, like the whole entire project completed? Like we had, the initial start from when we got the approval for the funding
Yeah.
to then, submitting and everything. Like, are we still on track for that, or are we behind or ahead of schedule, or?
We are definitely behind our initial thought, because the CDE and the DSA took longer than we thought it would to get approval. And then now we had to wait for them to get approval before we could even go out to get bids.
The funding,
to be able
yeah.
to get that. And then the funding, once we were qualified for the funding and for them to release it, it's 4 to 6 weeks by the time they say yeah to release it before we receive those funds also.
So how far behind are we then?
So I would say we're
Approximately.
I would guess probably 2 months behind.
So
Our
was it?
original, but I remember our original thought was like a fast track to get there.
Yeah.
Were we thinking that students would be in the classroom in January coming back from winter break? Or was it not?
No, we were looking at starting
I
in
thought
the
August.
classrooms the end of, in August of
Oh,
next year.
okay.
Yeah. And that's probably iffy at this point.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because we're coming into the rainy season too, right? So that's going to push us back on that part too.
And if I remember, it wasn't one of the stipulations, and I could be misremembering this, is that we have to have the project completed by a certain amount of time?
3 years.
Okay. Oh,
Okay, that
So it
was,
used
I
to
thought
be
it was a
two-
shorter timeline than that.
It used to be
was,
2 years,
They
but then they
changed it.
changed it to 3 years.
Oh, okay.
there
Okay, I
was
just
a
wanted to make
rush
sure.
on getting everything approved because the funding had to be, it was based on
And-
the funding. So us
and by
being
us
back a little
rushing-
bit, we're not,
It's not
And
gonna be.
by us rushing to get in for the funding was beneficial, ended up being because now they're not funding those like they
Right.
were, but we're already been funded.
okay.
So that was beneficial. But again, originally we thought we had 24 months to get it done, and then they changed that to
Extended it.
36 months because they knew there's no way that's going to happen. And not just us, but entirely.
Everyone.
And then there's been some other snags that have happened as well for DSA and through CDE.
Is it 3 years from ground break or from document sign?
3 years from when
From we
We
submitted,
submitted.
or for funding.
the clock started ticking.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
I guess what's the repercussions if we don't have it completed? In the,
We have
We have to
What?
get money
have
back.
money
don't we?
back. You can file a
You could
petition. I
file
think
an
Jen said that we
extension
can
too, yeah.
file
We're just trying to really get it
from
done.
King Consulting. She said that we could file a petition.
So we're a year in now, correct? So then we have
Yes.
2 more, okay, so are we gonna meet that? I mean, it is,
We
Yeah.
should be able to. I'm
Yeah.
just worried about our
Okay.
original timeline getting in there before August.
Okay.
That's my
but I
big
think
As
when
long
we
as-
started doing this, when we decided on that modular, that was kind of faster than anything because
then
they're
Correct.
prefabbed
brick
Stick
and
with
and,
mortar, yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm not on Measure, well, I am on Measure H now, but I was gonna say when we go to choose whoever
Well,
the,
It's not
committee.
measured.
the committee, yeah, then, we always best price, but also change orders,
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
because that can add to the cost and stuff, so
100%.
look at all of that.
That's one of the best things about the leaseback agreement is that right when we get them on board, we'll start our pre-con meetings. We have a full set of drawings, which is really nice. We don't have to kind of wait on those, which is kind of typical.
Yeah.
And then we're able to go through those drawings, vet everything out, work with the district if there's any last minute things that we need to get. And then what they're going to do is submit a bid based on all that pre-con that we have. So, and you're kind of mentioning the timeline, and that's why we wanted to kind of come to a conclusion on the delivery method, being that we kind of got to get on board before we see the funding come through. So kind of based on us chatting with Brian and our VPs and everybody, we felt like the lease-leaseback was the best method for these circumstances.
Okay,
Thank you.
so, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the delivery method for the Jefferson UTK Early Education Facility Project as the leaseback.
Okay, I have a motion from trustee Lopez White. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, a second from trustee Garrison. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
Okay, so trustee, okay. Okay, then now I have some. Okay, so on to public hearing in the matter of the conveyance of an easement of real property for public utility purposes.
So we need to adjourn into a public hearing
Okay.
so that people can make a comment on this if they choose. And then
Okay.
you'll close that, and then we will then have then the board will have be able to have a debate, or bring up the item.
Okay, so we are moving into public hearing at 6:53. Are there any public comments? Do we wait for like 3 minutes, or we just wait if nobody's going to speak, we're just cool? We go.
I think there's no set amount of time yet.
Okay. Well, if no one's clearly making their way up to the podium, then we are back in open session at 6, right?
Yep.
Okay, at 6:54?
And then you can call the T4 to,
Okay.
you can call that.
So then T4, so consideration and possible approval of resolution 225-07 in the matter of the conveyance of an easement in real property for public utility purposes.
So last time we left our meeting, remember this is a 2-meeting process, right? For the first meeting, basically, the board approved for us to be able to post it in the paper that we were considering this easement. And basically, the easement is for a guy wire to be put up on a PG&E pole down on our south property, which is at the corner of Kelly Way, or Kelly Road, and I don't know if it's Dutcher Creek or if it's Cloverdale Boulevard. A lot of multi-named streets here. And so this meeting would be to actually approve the resolution to allow the guy wire to be, an easement for the guy wire to be there. I will say that we worked with, Ashley and Preston and I met with the Dry Creek Rancheria, and we came up to a conclusion and got an MOU regarding kind of an in-kind match for the easement. And that was to put a fire hydrant kind of on our side of Kelly Road to help with some of our fire mitigation. And we reached agreement on that as per the direction the board gave us. So just know that when this gets signed, then I will sign that MOU as well, because I didn't want to sign the MOU prior to the board approving the easement, because it's predicated upon that happening. And so we have met legally all of our requirements for the conveyance of an easement for the board. And I can answer any kind of questions, and I know Kevin Doble's here also from the, as well as, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, David, that here representing the tribe as well. So if you guys have any questions for that. I'm getting to know this South property quite well. Just want you to know that.
No,
It's a
I've
nice
asked
piece of
all,
property. If you ever get a chance, the Kelly Road they put in is a beautiful road.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
I think the last meeting, we kind of knew where we stood, and we were just up to a vote. After you guys came with you guys did what we asked, or what they asked, and
Yep.
let's vote.
Okay, well, would anyone like to make a motion then to approve T4?
I'll move to approve item T4.
Okay, so I have a motion from trustee Lopez White. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so from trustee Zekowitz. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. Now on to T5, consideration and possible approval.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Consideration and possible approval of Resolution 225-08 regarding accounting of developer fees for 2023-2024 fiscal year in Fund 25, which is our capital facilities fund.
Okay. Senate Bill AB 2926 authorizes school districts to levy the developer fee for any sort of development project to mitigate impact on school facilities. As a requirement of that, we need to present an annual report of what we spent the money on, how much we got in, all of that. The rates right now are $5.71 per square foot for residential, 84 cents per square foot for commercial, and 25 cents per square foot for a mini storage. Are there any questions about the resolution?
Is the 517 per square foot for residential, is that like a average? Because wasn't there like a difference between the type of residential properties, or no?
No.
It's just any residential? Is
Any
that-
residential property?
Anyone have any other questions?
And I would say that's just based on a study that the King Consulting
Okay.
did for us, to arrive at these numbers.
Okay.
These aren't arbitrary, it's a study that they do too.
And these are actually set by the state. This is the highest that the district can
Gotcha.
qualify for. Okay.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to approve T5?
I'll move to approve T5.
Okay, I have a motion from trustee Lopez White.
I will second.
Okay, second from trustee Garrison. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. Now on to T6, consideration and possible approval of resolution 225-09 to identify the amount of budget reductions needed in 2024-2025 for 2025-2026 and to require that budget reductions for 2025-2026 be included in the 2024-2025 first interim report.
Could you say that again?
I don't know. No.
Just checking. So, you guys have a copy of my presentation. I thought 10 extra was going to work, but I didn't realize we were going to have so many people. So if you guys could maybe share with each other a little bit. Sorry, I apologize. I thought 10 was overkill, to be honest with you.
Is it okay if I just?
And if you don't have one, I have here on the lovely screen here too, by the way. So
No, put it right there. Okay, there we go.
are we good to go?
Yes, does anyone need another one? Because I can share with.
Do I have to be in a certain spot for them to see me, or can I? No? I can move around? Okay, good, excellent. Think a little better when I'm out walking around.
I know, that's not what I get to say. But
Okay, thank you. Like a coach in the penalty, I have to be in my coach's box, right? Nice, perfect. So we've been meaning to do this for a while, the kind of a budget update, basically, but we waited until this month because we knew we had 2 new board members coming in, and so it was just really, it would be a good opportunity to be able to get you guys kind of up to speed. Sorry to kind of blow this on you right at the first meeting you guys have, but you got some gifts, so maybe that helps a little bit. So also, my plan is, just so everybody knows, my plan is to also have the same conversation with all of our staff at each one of the sites in January. And so really we're trying to, not trying to, we want to make sure everybody understands kind of where we're at financially to this point and kind of how we got here. So I tried to think of a funny title, but the best I could come up with is how did we get here? So I know it's not super original, but that's where we're at. So I got to get my clicker.
That's my favorite part. Whenever I'm lecturing, to do the clicker and like the laser pointer. I make inappropriate jokes when I'm like.
Okay, so you're going to see that I have several different areas that we're going to talk about that I've labeled area. And so no one specific area is responsible for our entire situation. It's just kind of everything kind of has happened at once. And so if any questions do come up throughout, please ask them, or because I think it's going to be difficult to kind of wait till the end and ask. So I think that maybe it might be good, maybe each slide to ask, if I could just ask people if they have any questions, mainly for you guys too, to ask questions. So we really wanted to give an idea of kind of where we're at right now financially in Cloverdale Unified School District. So for those of you that know, some of you may not, there's 2 different things in school districts that are called, one's called attendance or average daily attendance, which is ADA, which is how we get funded. It's how many kids are in the seats on a given day, right, and throughout the year. It's not by enrollment. And enrollment is basically how many kids are signed up to go to school, right? So there's a discrepancy there a lot of times. I mean, ideally, we would have our attendance would match our enrollment, ideally, right? But that's just not reality. And so our enrollment is basically flat. And that's the misnomer part, is you think, okay, well, if the attendance is flat, why are we having an issue? Well, I'll get into that in a second. So our attendance rates over the years, and we're going to talk about them here, have fluctuated. COVID did change the landscape quite a bit. And so you'll see that pre-COVID we were at a certain level, and post-COVID we're starting to come back. And I would just say that I would credit all of our teachers and our staff. Really, we've been hitting it really hard on getting parents and families to bring their kids to school. And it's working. Our attendance is definitely up this year. And that's a way we can increase our income, is by having more students come on a more daily basis. And so I want to emphasize that. We've also been doing a lot of emphasis on mailers and Parent Square to really communicate to parents and to families to get their kids to school, because we all know when they're in school, they're going to learn a lot better. They're going to learn because they're in school. Okay? So on our funded ADA, so we have, and if we look back at 2021 and 22, we've got our enrollment was at a little over about 1312. Our ADA was about a 95% ADA, which is really good. But if you'll notice here on our funded, right, our funded ADA was actually more than our enrollment. You're probably thinking, well, how can that be? How can more kids show up than you have signed up to be there? Well, it's because our funding has 3 different models, right? You can either do the current year that you're in, or the previous year, or you could also, during COVID, you could use the average of the 3 previous years. Okay? So what happened in this case is that we have an enrollment of 1312, but our ADA was only 1253, but we were funded on 1320 because the prior years was a lot higher in the ADA.
And during COVID, we were on a hold harmless, right?
Exactly, I was just going to mention that. Yes, correct. And so we were being able to we were given the funding such that we didn't have to do the fluctuating because it was hard on whether we would allow kids to come back, how much they would come back, and so on. Right? So what this is this just shows you the different enrollments throughout the years and what the different ADA looks like. As you can see, it's dipped down a little bit, but now we're coming back up again, right, which is good. And then here's the amount that we were funded on. So if you can see, these two here were still funded pretty high because we were able to use the 3-year average, right? And then down here, again, we're having to use the current year, so that's what we've got. But if you notice, we're actually losing ADA, right? And so we're down quite a bit. So the decrease in ADA funding was, during COVID, was supplemented by one-time funds that the state were giving us, right? To kind of, as Ashley said, to hold us harmless, essentially, right? Because there were a lot of things we had to add because of COVID, right? We had, I'm sure, well, I wasn't here, but in Fortuna, we had to add, like, taking temperatures, we had to do all that stuff, right? So these were staff that we had to add. The loss, so if you can see that I forgot to change the numbers, this should be at 3703. But just on the loss of 37 ADA is almost $500,000. That's just ADA right out the door because of the funding models, or the way they're kind of funding us has changed a little bit because of we were held at a certain standard and now we have to go back to where we were before, right? So we're not able to capitalize in some of those other years we had previously, right? Questions on that? Okay. Fund allocation. With some of these one-time monies, we had a lot of our personnel costs were covered by those one-time monies. And as you know, the danger about one-time monies that the state of California likes to do is they like to say, well, you got this extra funding, you can keep these extra people. But it's hard to keep ongoing costs with one-time funds, right? So there's another, so not only is the ADA part going down and we're losing funds there, we're also losing a lot of one-time funds that we've been getting year after year to be able to do that. So that's kind of our second hit that we've got to our revenues coming in as well, okay? And again, one-time monies were allowed for additional personnel to be maintained through the last few years. So that's just a different area of cost or of lower funding coming in as well. Yes, ma'am. I mean, is it okay that I?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, that's right.
Yes.
Or bring them the mic.
I would say to the podium.
But
so
actually,
they're
why don't you
on
ask
camera.
me, then I'll reiterate the question.
No, you have to come for the audit, for
I'll
people.
restate the question.
Pick it up.
But for people to see who's speaking.
Yeah.
This will give you good practice for Friday.
We're being recorded.
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Can you give an example of some of these people? What jobs they are?
One-time fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to help me with that? I do. Okay.
Phone a friend.
So this year, for 2024-25, we have 2 funds left that are being used as one-time money for ongoing costs. And those 2 funds are Resource 6266, which is the Educator Effectiveness Grant money, and 7435, which is the LRE, which is Learning Recovery Emergency Funds money. And the positions that are being funded for those, for instance, are, well, let's see, one of them is a science teacher currently at Jefferson. No, I mean at Washington. I'm sorry, I'm looking at you and thinking Washington and say Jefferson. They're regular classroom teachers. And then the other chunk is out of, we have a lot of aides at Jefferson School, and they're being funded out of that one-time money.
Great question.
remember, were TOSAs funded by one-time money, or were those grants, or
In prior years,
in prior years? Yeah.
I
Oh, okay.
I assume so. I couldn't answer that off the top of my head.
I think they were.
I think so, but.
You'd probably be better to
Prior
answer
years,
that than we
like-
would be. Yeah, good question, though. Thank you. Appreciate that. Took you a long time to get here to get the question, but it's okay. It's worth it. So, and again, like I said before, all I'm doing is we're just hitting at different areas that are causing this issue. One of the other things, were areas that we did have increased personnel costs. We did in 22-23, we gave a 10% raise to staff. And in 23-24, we did give an 8% increase to staff as well. And that lists all the different staff. It was not all the teachers, it was not all classified. Management also got it, classified management got it, so it's not one group that got it, the whole district got that. But that is an increase, and that is an amount that is an ongoing cost. And these costs that are up here, the 1.4 and the 1 million, that's just what it costs each year for that. And that actually increases because of the step and column part, right? So I just want to be clear on that. This, I think, is worth mentioning. AB 1200 is the public disclosure you have to do anytime you reach a collective bargaining agreement. And this was done in 2022. And it basically talks about the affordability, because we have to, whenever you have an agreement, you have to prove, and the board has to take action to approve and affirm that you're in fact can afford what you're giving, right? And so part of this, what it says in here, because I think it's important, is it says that the enrollment is projected to be flat with the addition of 13 four-year-old TK students each year of the 2 subsequent years, which did not materialize. And if it says if the projected enrollments is not realized, the district will have to identify increases to class size and reductions to programming and staffing. We're here. That's where we're at. So we knew that going in, and so unfortunately, the realization of some of that was predicated on didn't happen, right? So again, please, I'm not pointing any fingers or anything like that too. I'm just trying to give us a state of where we're at, okay? So another thing is we've talked about reserves quite a bit. The state has a reserve minimum of unrestricted funds of 3% for our district size. We, and the board has passed in its previous times of wanting to have a 10% reserve for that, which is a great idea to be able to have, because we all know 3%. 10% gets us about one month worth of expenses. And we always like to have more than maybe 1 month worth of expenses on hand. But we're only required to have 3% by the state of California. So by this slide, what we want to do is to show you, and the difference too, and when I say unrestricted in here, unrestricted means just that. This is money that has no strings attached to it, right? Which means you could spend it on whatever. Okay, because then there's restricted dollars, for example, that have a string attached to it, right? That can only be spent on certain things. Okay, so we're talking about unrestricted dollars here. And in 21 and 22, the reserve for the 3% is based upon your expenses that the district has. That's the number that they use the 3% of. So that in 21, 22, the reserve, the minimum requirement for the state was about $550,000. Okay? We also had, which again, the board wants to have a 10% reserve, which is 7% in addition to that 3%, that we had about $1.3 million in that part. And then we had another unassigned amount of that. And so we had a total in our reserves of about $3 million. That's a pretty healthy bottom line, right? Then in 22-23, the minimum requirement reserve went up because the expenses went up. Right, so that's why that increased. We also still had the 7%, and then we had an unassigned, but you can see it decreased by about $1.2 million from our reserve. Okay, and all the areas that I talked about before, and something I'm going to be coming up in a second, contributed to those losing part, right? Because if you have something that you're spending money on that you're anticipating more revenue for and it doesn't come in, you got to dip into the purse a little bit, right, in order to pay for that. Right?
I have a question. If the
And I didn't mean to say purse. I meant to say,
Sorry.
get in there. But yes.
For 22-23, the 3% and the 7%, the 3% is higher than the year before, but the 7% is lower than the year before.
So
Mathing ain't mathing for me right now.
Right.
this is the required amount.
Because it doesn't make the 10%.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
we didn't make the 7%.
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay.
The last 2 years.
I should be okay and comfortable with numbers, being a math teacher. but
I know,
threw me
that's
for a
what I was
loop.
asking.
So yes, so we were losing on that part already, yes. And then the difference would be the next year, we had to dip in those reserves by almost 800,000. So as you can tell, we've gone down significantly through our reserves, only we're burning through those, right? And as you know, anytime you're burning through, just like we're burning through one-time monies, which essentially this is, right? It's like our savings account, once you burn through it, it's not replenishing itself unless you're replenishing it, right? And so anyway, just again, we're painting the picture of why we're here, right? Next thing is too, for the causes for those decreases in those 2 years, again, this slide, and this is a reason for that slide. Does that make sense? So the 1.235 decrease is due to some of these things underneath here. We've had some payouts, and I don't want to air our dirty laundry again, but these are some things, again, we're painting the picture, right, of what's going on. So it wasn't all the staff increases. There were some other extracurricular activities, we'll call them, that happened that cost money, right? And again, no judgment, I'm just reporting what's there. And then the next one, again, would be some more of the increase, stuff like that too. And I don't have exact dates on this stuff, but just trying to paint the picture of what's going on.
I just want to make it clear, though, we didn't pay out $1.2 million for what is listed.
Correct, correct. It's
So there's
kind of a
other things-
whole.
Yeah, I just want to make
Yes.
it clear. I don't want people to say, like, you paid out that much money. No, we did not. That's just.
No, this is like all that
an
stuff.
example, yeah.
Correct. Well, it's all this stuff, all of this stuff combined into there, and I don't have it broken down into what's what, but we didn't want to go into that rabbit hole either.
Yeah.
So, okay? Okay, we also have another area of things that this is going to be just, naturally our PG&E, our electricity, our natural gas and stuff have gone up through the years as well. Our insurance has gone up, supplies, paper, all that stuff's all increased, right? Fuel, gasoline, diesel, maintenance of facilities costs, and the list goes on. So, again, there's no one sector to blame to this at all. Right? I think that maybe there were some things that we might be able to bring up a little bit, but it's a combination of things to get us here at this point. So why the resolution? So those of you that were here last month, or 2 months ago, I think it was 2 months ago. 2 months ago, the Sonoma County Office of Ed, which basically has kind of oversight over our budget, said, hey guys, you don't make your 3% minimum. That's a problem. So they said, you have to do some things, some measures that we want to see this year to be able to show that you are making those movements forward for us to be able to conditionally and approve and hopefully approve your budget, knowing because we have a plan. The first thing was to identify some of the stuff we did in November, right, to be able to do that to get us to the 3%. And then the second thing is going to be to have you guys approve and agree, essentially, to be able to cut about $1.4 million from our budget. And the reason why is because currently we're using the 1.15 money expenses from one-time money. And one-time money will be gone. And then we also have a structural deficit of about $230,000 on top of after the one-time monies are being exhausted. And these are just rough estimates too. But the second piece of what we're doing in the steps for us to be able to come a little more fiscally solvent is to be able to because what the county office wants to see from us is a guarantee is not the right word, but a commitment on the board's part to understand the problem and to say that we're committed to making these cuts, approximately these cuts, for us to be able to come and have a future. Because as you know, when we approve the first interim, which you're going to talk about in a second, and the second interim and stuff, is you have to not only make your expenses for this year, but prove you're going to make them for 2 years plus out, right? And I get that we want, that the board's desire is to have a 10% reserve. I just don't know if we're going to get there for a few years. And so we, when it comes to our interim report, which you're going to see next, is we're using that 3% part to be able to get there, knowing it's really low, but that's kind of the gauge that we're being able to use. So questions about that presentation part there. And so this is kind of all wrapped into that same resolution. I don't have that resolution on me, but, oh, thank you. So basically the resolution that you have in front of you says that it basically describes the same thing here where it says the cumulative amount of approximately $1,403,450 is because of the structural deficit plus the amount of money that we're using, one-time funds that we're using for ongoing costs. So that's where we get there. And that's to get the minimum 3%.
So, in a nutshell, we have to cut 1.4 million from the budget, roughly, to meet the 3%. If we don't do that.
For 24-25.
For 24,
Excuse me, for 25-26.
25-26.
Correct.
If we don't do that, if we don't meet our 3%, the next step is that the county or state takes control of our budget. Correct?
Well, I don't know if we go that far yet.
When does that, I mean, because.
Well, basically what would happen is the Sonoma County office would not approve our budget.
Okay, and so if they don't approve our budget, what's the next step?
We'd have to then go back to the drawing board, correct?
And it's
You don't approve your budget, so you don't have a budget, you got to go back and,
Yeah.
yes. So state takeover, let's not even talk about that. That's a
Well, it's
waste.
always been talked about with this. That's
But
what that was.
I don't want you to think, we're not, no, that,
Okay.
state takeover would be as if we're sitting here not doing it, we're saying, hey, we're going to give another 10%, crazy stuff. And so, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, it happens, but we're to the point now where they're like, hey, meaning SCO is saying, you got to take these steps in order for us to even be comfortable with your budget at this point. And so, again, they're looking for confirmation from the board and the commitment to understand, number one, we have a problem on our hands. And number two, are you committed to being able to cut what we need to cut at a bare minimum of what we need to cut to make it sustainable? And our job as a staff is to provide that information to you and give you thoughts. And between now and the next couple months, my job is to reach out and work with our staff, everything like that too, to be able to come up with solutions potentially to bring to you guys that we feel like would
Help us meet that.
meet this, but still maintain a really good program for what we've got, right? And I'm not going to say it's going to be easy.
So we
gonna be
have to have
crappy.
this done by March then, essentially, if we have to do.
Well,
layoffs.
March is a piece. I mean, let's just call it what it is. March is a piece of this because that's where our layoff parts happen, yes. But remember, March is only a notice piece, right? It's not a full layoff piece, but yes, that's a piece of it. There's no doubt.
Do RIFs by March 15th.
And if you notice, if you've been paying it, I shouldn't say that, sounds kind of condescending, but if in the news, you see, we're not the only ones doing this, folks. I think San Jose's got to cut $30 million, I think.
And closing schools.
I think so. Close.
So we have a piece of it too. We're like everybody else, but so it's not a unique Cloverdale thing right now. We're all doing that, and you can see that's what's there. But it affects us and our community. There's no doubt about it. So we're going to try to do the best that we can to work together, and that's what I'm talking about when we've met to talk about. I'm going to do the same talk with all the schools, and I want people to ask questions and everything like that too. And so I think it's important that we get out ahead of it and we are transparent and we see what's going on, and it's not going to be easy. I'm just going to tell you, it's not going to be easy. And unfortunately, it's probably going to make us not as good educationally for a while until we can get a handle on this, because we're going to have to cut some programs probably that are really meaningful programs. And but we're going to try to do the best we can not to have that.
So, may I interject here?
Of course.
The 1.4 gets us through 1 year. SCO wants a 3-year budget review, correct? They want a projection for them. So 1.4 this coming year is going to push us out for the next 3 years on meeting that 3%?
Yes, that's correct. And then what we'll do is we'll continue to make decisions depending on what it looks like, the financial outlook and the out years, right? Like when the next June comes around, they pass a new budget, maybe we end up getting millions of dollars extra we didn't contemplate on. But
So that's something also
as a
that-
state of right now, that's what we're having to do to get to this year to meet the out years from what we know right now for those out years. Does that make sense?
So it sets us up for the
So,
future.
for example, right now, what you're going to see her, Krista, talk about at the next item for first interim report is right now we're trying to, like, for example, there are different organizations that are projecting COLA for the next couple of years. And they're all over the place, right? So what we've done is we've kind of averaged what it is, right? But let's say that one group says the next one's going to be 4%, the other one's going to say it's going to be 2%. We're going to put in like 3%, just middle of the road, right? But that could change. It could be 5%, and then we do that. So it's a snapshot in time. And so I know, and that's different than maybe the private sector would be, but in the public sector, we're always dependent upon what the state's going to do, right? And so it's always a dart on the board that maybe the board's there, maybe it's not, right? And so that makes it difficult. But good question. Ashley, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the governor's budget, you left that off, but that also has to do with us getting here. What was it? It was like 67 billion under what they thought it was gonna be this year when that came out. So it's kind of why all of the schools are feeling that also.
Yeah, they were expecting more revenue.
But the main part why we're here, though, is we've
yeah.
got a couple of cliffs, right? The one-time monies are gone, and then now that with we're realizing the loss of students, right? And again, California's losing students statewide, right? So declining enrollment's a thing for everybody. I shouldn't say everybody, but majority of schools, yes.
Any other questions?
Everybody else is afraid because they have to come up here to ask the question. Appreciate that. Well, you're getting ready for Fridays, so that's good. So,
So this MO, or this, what we're,
Resolution.
the resolution, it's just saying that we're going to commit to making.
yeah, because you think about it from SCO's point of view, right? It's easy to say it, right? But if you have action on it, then that gives also me to be able to say, listen, guys, we talked about this in December, right? And, so I think it shows the urgency level for SCO to be able to understand that, and I think it does show a commitment on your part. Now, if things change and we don't have to do that, great. But as of right now, to be able to go forward, that's where we're at.
Move to approve resolution 225-09 to identify the budget of reductions needed in 24-25 for 25-26, to require the budget reductions for 25-26 to be included in the 24-25 first interim report.
It's fun to say, isn't it? Okay, so I have a motion by trustee Garrison. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, so trustee O'Gamian.
Can I say one other thing? I would just say that we got Sarah Lampenfeld, who's the lady at SCO, that basically talked to us about our budget issue, wanted to express her thanks to you guys to understanding you're taking this seriously and you're making the proper actions that you need to take to be able to do that. So it's not going unnoticed that we are, some districts are just kind of kicking the can down the road and we'll deal with that later. So they appreciate the fact that you're taking it head on and you're understanding and voting to be able to make some cuts that you have to make and understand that you have to commit to that.
Thank you.
Preferential?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. So now on to T7, consideration and possible approval of the 2024-2025 first interim report.
Okay, here we go. Hello. Okay, so let's talk about first interim a little bit. I kind of put this together a little bit differently than what you have seen before, but I wanted to talk about a little bit about our unrestricted dollars. And Glenn talked a little bit about the difference between restricted dollars and unrestricted dollars, but I just want to reiterate it again. We get restricted dollars like for special education or for the career technical education program or different things, and those revenues are considered restricted. And then the expenditures that go along with them are also considered restricted because we can only spend them on certain things. We can't take the special ed money and just go, to Tahiti or something like that. It has to be, spent only on special ed. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about our unrestricted revenues, because this is where we're really impacted with that 3% and making that reserve. So where do we get our revenues from? So as you can see by the graph, the local control funding formula is how we get our funding now. And that went into place because Governor Jerry Brown couldn't understand 3 pages of the revenue limit calculations. And so he had to, develop the local control funding formula, which is now over 45 pages. Much easier than the 3-page revenue limit calculations. So the LCFF state aid portion is for this district for 24-25 is the $6,095,135. The other part of the local control funding formula is then the property tax. And property taxes right now for this district are estimated by the county as being $10,830,464. So our total unrestricted revenue for this year is $16,926.99. That's for the local control funding formula. In addition to that, am I going too fast? In addition to that, we get $513,629 in additional state aid, and that is primarily unrestricted lottery. And then we also get what's called a mandated cost grant. And that's where the state mandates you to do something, but they only give you pennies on the dollar in order to do those mandates. And those are the 2 fundings that are in that money. The other money that we get is local, and that's $205,215. And that is where we get local property taxes for special education and also donations.
Is that our like developer fees?
Nope.
That's not included in there.
Developer fees is all in Fund 25.
Okay.
This is in unrestricted Fund 01, our general fund.
Fund 01 and Fund 25.
Okay, so
So the
there's-
idea would be is that the stuff that we take in for the developer fees has a specific purpose for it. It can't be spent on other things.
Yeah.
It's got facilities stuff specifically for it, because the idea behind it is if we're expanding, right, you might have to do some infrastructure improvements. So you can't just say, hey, we're charging you because we're going to pay for a principal, right? I mean, they're specifically listed for what they're collecting it for, right?
Thank you. And we have Fund
You're
13,
welcome. I'm
for
here to
instance.
help all day
Thank
long.
you, I appreciate that. Okay, so then this next slide talks about enrollment, average daily attendance, and then funded average daily attendance. And this kind of builds on the slide that you saw earlier from Glenn. This shows our enrollment in 2021 as 1312. The ADA that we actually earned was 1253.60, but the funded ADA was 1320.84. So I want you to look at the last year, which is 24-25, and right now our enrollment count is done on the first Wednesday of October every year, and that's called our CBEDS enrollment count. And that number, we get some funding based on how that number works. That number is what we base our attendance on by a percentage. And this year, what we did was, because we had improved attendance, particularly at Jefferson and Washington, we estimated that the percentage of attendance is going to be 93.5%. And so far with Washington and Jefferson, it's tracking right about there. So we're on track at this point. Then the funded ADA, because we've had this financial cliff that we dropped off of, we are going to be funded only on the ADA that we actually received this year. And right now, it's projected to be 1,223.82.
And that's that's the number of do we know the cost associated per student?
We get approximately $14,000 per
student for the
average daily
school year.
attendance. If that's for 100%.
Right.
If they're there 100% of the time. So your kids that have perfect attendance, that's how much they earn for us for the year. Okay. All right, so then where does our money go? And again, I'm only talking about the unrestricted side of the pot, right? We're not talking about cafeteria or any of those other things. Our unrestricted expenditures for 24-25 right now are, you can see that we have certificated at 6.5, classified at 2.4, and benefits at 3.5. And I want to talk about benefits for just a second, because benefits doesn't mean only health and welfare. It also means CalSTRS, which is the state teachers retirement system, which is at 19.1%, and it also means CalPERS, which is currently at 20, which is California Public Employees Retirement System, which is currently at an all-time high of 27.03%. Then you add on to that the 6.2 for Social Security, 1.45 for Medicare, and then our workers' comp rate of 2.33, and unemployment insurances was 0.05%. So all of those things add up to be the benefit costs. And right now, for our unrestricted budget, salaries and benefits are running 90% of our budget. So when we're talking about having to make cuts and things, 90% of our budget is people. The other remaining part of it is supplies and operating expenses. You can also see on there is $15,000 on there for capital outlay, and that's because Riley Dale was able to get a grant from the Farm Bureau for $15,000 for the greenhouse and those things. So that's what that is. That's not a normal expenditure, but it's considered donation, so it's considered unrestricted. But our operating expenses, like Glenn talked about before on the previous slide, that's PG&E. It's water, it's sewer, it's picking up the trash. It's those kinds of things. It's really hard to cut money out of those things. So that's kind of where our expenses are for unrestricted dollars. Any questions about that? Okay, so components of ending fund balance. So Glenn talked a little bit about our past ending fund balances, and I'm going to talk for a minute about our current year and the 2 out years. With the approval of the resolution to commit to cutting the 1.4 million, we're able to make the 3% in 25-26. So let's take a look at these numbers for a minute. Our beginning fund balance in 24-25 is $1,061,675. The estimated ending fund balance is $832,092. Of that, the 3% reserve is $732,457. The assigned is $57,946, which is your unrestricted lottery, and that goes out to supplies and materials and stuff for the sites. Committed then is the $41,689, which is the board's commitment toward that 7%. That's one of those things. The committed funds are by board action. The assigned then are resources that are intended to be used for a specific purpose, which unrestricted lottery is. So then we go look at 25-26. Because of the commitment of the board, the beginning fund balance is estimated to be $832,092 with an ending fund balance of $744,789. Of that, your reserve for economic uncertainties is $628,000. Your assigned, which is what's left of your lottery, is $25,946, and your committed is $36,138. When we get to the third year, which is what's required by the state, 26-27, you can see that the reserve now is $694,847. There's no lottery money left. We're only getting then what we would get for that year. And the committed is $35,828. That's your entire ending fund balance.
When you say committed, are you saying the committed is the 7%, or is it the committed funds like deferred maintenance, track and field replacement? Is that anywhere in here, or is that, because in the budget that was presented, it does talk about that a little bit, but I'm just on that. Is any of it on there?
So the committed that's referred to here is the amount of money that's available toward the 7%.
Okay.
So that is the track and field, all of that's.
The others are already
is
in
not.
it.
That
already
is-
in there.
There's
Okay.
already in it.
Correct.
Yep.
Just this year, we did not take that. We only took out
75,000.
And so this has the whole commitment in it from the resolution. But what she's saying is, and that's a good, I'm glad you brought that up, Jackie. What she's saying is that the committed part is that extra 7% that the board has, it has committed to, it's, I don't know how many years ago that was.
I guess I'm confused.
Yeah.
Where is the deferred maintenance, track and field, technology, and classroom furniture on here? Like, is it in the reserve for economic uncertainty? Where is it fall under on that?
It's not
sheet?
on this page.
It's not, it'd be separate.
It's not
from
on
your
this
taking it out.
page.
It'd be a
Okay.
budget item.
Okay.
It would be under your, it's on your Form 01, which is in your packet, for unrestricted.
Okay.
This
So
part here,
this
all
is-
all we're talking about here right now is the ending fund balance, and we're showing you the amount. So if you look at, and correct me if I'm wrong, Krista, but if you look at the first column when it goes from 1 million to 832,000.
Yeah.
It's just in
That's the
that.
It's
deficit
in there
spending
somewhere.
amount,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So the next 2 years, we're deficit spending very minimally, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's just showing you how we're cutting into our leftover balances. But the 25, 26, and 26, 27 already has those expenses already taken out. of
Okay,
it
that are, and
before
it's
it gets to
listed
this
in
point.
here.
Yep.
It says on page 20. Wait, not. I don't know what page it's on. Page 5, I believe, of the interim budget that you put in our packet.
Yeah, so this would be, so we would be quite a bit less of the 7 extra percent.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
As of right now. Correct. Sorry, Krista, go ahead.
No, that's okay, thank you. Okay, so then what's next? Some of the quick facts about the first interim budget. It does have a positive certification, but that does include the 1.4 million reduction for 25-26. And then there are also some significant risks to this budget. This budget has extremely narrow margins. Right now, there's, after first interim, there's $4,793 left in the supply budget that's unrestricted, that's not been encumbered yet. That's not very much money when you're looking at a $22 million budget. So when I say narrow margins, I mean really narrow margins. There's been a drop in enrollment of 20 students since the October census. That's going to have an impact on our ADA. And we've also seen a slight decline in ADA, particularly at the high school. So we're kind of trying to monitor that too. The next steps are going to be, we're going to have P1, which is the first reporting of all of the attendance. It's due on January 8th, so we'll be able to bring that to the board with where we are with that for attendance for the year, for our projection. The governor's proposed state budget will be released in January, on or about January 15th, and so we'll get an idea of the state of the state of the state, where they are, where they think we're going to go, and we'll also get some ideas about where they think COLAs are going to be, because COLAs have a big impact on where we are. And then the second interim will be coming to you during the March meeting.
So each interim season, basically, which you're in the first interim now, is the board has the ability, or you report it basically, either you're positive, which says you're going to meet your financial obligations, again, with the 3% minimum, not the 10% minimum, right? And then for the current year and 2 years out. I will tell you this, that we are requesting that it be positive, because we do make it, but as Krista said, it's a very thin making it, but still we're making it. There are ramifications for qualified and then negative. There are some severe ramifications, and I know Ashley, you brought it up before about takeover and stuff like that too. Not those severe, but for example, if you have a qualified or a negative, you have to do a third interim report throughout the year. So we could be, by the second interim, be qualified. We're going to work our tails off to not be. And I think that the staff has been doing a good job of helping with that. You know, it's a concerted effort and it's a collaborative effort. But we just want to be real and transparent in the fact that this is not, and when she says a $4,000 unencumbered out of a $22 million budget, I wouldn't even consider that to be razor thin. I'd consider that to be ridiculously thin. So we're not out of the woods yet, and I know, here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about saying we're a positive, because that sounds like, okay, we're meeting all our obligations, great, which is true, but the obligations are pretty minimal when it comes to that, right? Because like I said, it's about 10% for 1 month's expenses. we're only being required to show 3%, right? And we're barely making that 3%. So I want you guys to understand that. But at the same time, it is positive. So we're asking it to be positive, not because it's smoke and mirrors or anything like that. It is truly to be positive, but not positive in the sense of the 10% that the board wants to have. I just want that to be thrown out there. Because I think, again, I don't want any, the worst thing that can happen in times like this is when there's misunderstandings or some people think it's a certain way, and it's not. So the idea is to really be as clear and concise as possible, because a lot of stuff we're doing is not very. So our job is to try to make it to where people can understand that. And so it's important to ask questions, but also we need, again, we're talking about a positive interim here, but at this point in time, but again, by thin pieces.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your slideshow. It's easy to
Yes.
follow.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Krista.
it.
I appreciate it, and the transparency. What is concerning to me, the $1.4 million just gets us at the 3%. But again, on page 5, under summary, at the June adoption for the 24-25, I'm just going to read this verbatim. The district is only able to make the one-time commitment of $75,000 to Fund 14 for deferred maintenance. The $100,000, and not track and field, not technology, and not classroom furniture. The $100,000 for track is not included. However, it is planned for 25-26 and 26-27. The $110,000 to Fund 17 is not made in the current year or the projected 2 years. So we're not funding technology, infrastructure replacement, or classroom furniture for the next 2 years. It does make the district have 3% this year and the 2 years out, but not our commitment of 7% that the board wanted. So to me, I feel like we need to cut more than $1.4 million because we're not even making this. I mean, we need to, what's going to happen if we have to replace all of our technology? Where's that money going to come from? If we have to replace a roof, like we need to plan ahead. So for me, I just want to say, I feel like we need to cut more than $1.4 million and, you know, make a list of here's things at each site that we, you know, could possibly go, list the amounts of them and go through and see where they are. And, you know, like the top ones might be one color where like, yeah, those have to go. Then the next ones are maybe they can go, and so on and so forth to look at that. But for me, I would say we need to look at cutting more than 1.4, because if our CBO is telling us that it's a risky budget, that's not okay for me. That's scary, because she's, you know, you're our our business person, and you know, a goal of the district is to be fiscally responsible, and we don't know what's going to happen, so we need to plan.
Yeah, and I think to that point, it's what we've been talking about tonight too, is this is to get us there. It's by no means correct. By no means solving the problem. It's getting us through and on our road back to being well. I would agree with you. I just don't know if we're able to cut that deep in a single year. Just being honest.
And I understand that, but yeah.
And so I don't think anybody disagrees with your thought. I don't know if practically I feel like it's going to be tough to even get to where we need the minimum. So just again, in all honesty, I think it's a pretty deep cut.
So I wrote down some stuff that I want for future agenda items, but I feel like it's okay to talk about it here.
Are we still talking about my goals? I'm just kidding.
No. But because we touched on the different funds that we did, and I want to say it was like 4 years ago because I was new when we brought it on, but we did the funding for what Jackie just talked about, the track and field, deferred maintenance, classroom furniture, and technology. And there were certain set amounts.
The set-asides.
That's right. Set-asides. I mean, is it possible for us to revisit those? Because I feel like it was numbers that were thrown out, but now we're in this budget crisis, and I don't know how much it's gonna cost to replace the track and field or the furniture or any of that, and I feel like if that's something that we can,
I mean, like, do we do a hiatus for a couple of years to help
Yes.
ease the cut?
yes.
Or
And,
even
My-
look back
my
at
answer-
what's the realistic cost and lifespan of the track
Well,
and
my
field?
answer to that would be is the board can do what it wants. Obviously,
Right.
you have ultimate say in that. We're basing it upon, as you can have said, we're basing it upon what our parameters are that we have to build a budget on, right? And when we
Right.
have to, what your wish is, what's been in board policy and stuff like that too, right? So those are things that we are going to give you options with. If you remember
Okay.
last time we did we approved the budget, right? We said, listen, hey, this only has 75,000 of, let's say, 250 we're supposed to put aside. You guys could have said, nope, not gonna do that.
Right.
And then we would have done some other things, maybe we made some hires that we made, for example, for that. Or we would have cut something up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's always gonna be a discussion. This is just the tip of the discussion that we're starting, right? So we're just kind of laying the path right now, and then we need to figure out where we want to do those cuts from. And those cuts can come from anywhere, as long as they're ongoing costs, right, for that.
So the monies Ashley's speaking to are unrestricted funds. You guys budgeted?
Yes,
for-
that we're setting aside, that's correct,
Okay.
yes. And the idea behind that is a great idea, is that, for example, let's use the turf field, right? It has a life, right? Let's say the life is 10 years, right? So, and that's gonna be $1 million. Well, you have to have had $1 million.
Alright.
The idea is to take 10 years and have $1 million, and you have replacement when it's supposed to be changed. Instead of being like, okay, whoops, we got 100,000, we got $1 million field, we gotta change. So I get that, but to your point, I think Ashley is maybe a couple times we don't. For example, in my experience, we set aside $60,000 every year, and after 5 years, we would be able to get a bus, right? So we do a bus replacement. Well, we had some down years, and we thought, okay, well, we're not gonna make that, we're not gonna do it in 6 years to buy a new bus, we're gonna push that to 10 years to buy a new bus, and so we're going to push that aside.
Yeah, just the.
Those are
realistic
decisions
nature
that
of
can be
everything.
made, yes, but as of right now, we're building it upon what our parameters are right now.
Right.
So that
It's
needs to be
easy
And
something
again,
that we have
to
to
re-
revisit.
But to reiterate, is the 1.4 is the minimum we're gonna need to
Yeah.
cut to make it, to your point. Yes. And it's cool, because
And
we're
I-
talking about this, and she has to stand up to us, this is great.
I just want to add too, and that is that the district has already been making reductions. For instance, we've had some resignations and we're not filling those positions. And that's what gets us to where we are tonight.
That's accounted for with
Yep.
this?
It's almost impossible to make cuts during the year, because everybody's usually on a contract, on a year contract, so it's really hard to make cuts during that. And so that's why most of the stuff we're talking about is for next year, because that's what we can kind of control going forward.
Well, and we've had to suspend a lot of the, and I don't know the acronym for this, maybe Michelle can help me, the SIPSA? What's it stand for? Single Plan for Student Achievement. We had to suspend a lot of those this year because we had to slash $165,000 out of the LCAP dollars because we didn't have it. So we've already made and started a lot of those reductions
Well, and
that
just
we
in
can.
general, my overall kind of comment to everyone here and just watching and people within the district as well. Like with all of these different presentations, I just hope all of us can work together and create solutions that, it's gonna be difficult. This is incredibly depressing to me, to be quite frank, but they need to happen. But I just hope everyone can kind of work together for those solutions, so that this can be not as horrific as it sounds on paper to me. So it's, yeah, just a collective effort would be much appreciated.
So to bring us back to the meeting, we are asking that the board approve the first interim report for 24-25 as positive.
I'll move to approve the 24-25 first interim report
Okay, I have a motion
As positive.
as positive.
as positive. I have a motion from trustee Lopez-White. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by trustee Zekowitz. Preferential?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
I just would say,
Thank you.
appreciate everybody's input. I think
Thank you,
this is
Krista.
what we need to have. I appreciate the communities being here for that and staff as well. So I just, it's the beginning of what we're going to start talking about. So buckle up. Rough first meeting for a couple of you. But
I know, so, yeah, mine was until midnight, whenever I was sworn in.
Mine was too.
So, yeah, yep.
So one other thing
Yeah.
too, just remember that our next board meeting is actually up
fif-
1 week, remember?
Oh.
Yeah, so it's the
gonna be up-
15th.
Nope,
No,
it's
it's
the
the
8th,
eighth, yeah.
because the 1st is on a Wednesday.
Oh,
So it's on the 8th, so just
okay.
remember that. So it's going to be 1 week ahead of time, so it's, yeah, so whenever you move it up, right, actually the first one's going to be quicker, so then it'll be a month
Okay.
after that.
So any future board agenda items that you want to add?
Can I request, it doesn't have to be right away, but can we revisit those, was it board policy that it was set, that were, what were
It
they?
was a
Board
revolution.
resolutions?
Resolution.
Can we revisit those, all those different funds that we designated as a board?
Yeah, I think it would be good to bring that
Yeah.
back as well as
And
the
the-
board policy for the 10% too.
Yes.
So everybody can kind of see the language, especially with two new gentlemen on there too.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Anything else that anyone would like to add?
Can I just ask that when we do bring it back, can we get actual numbers for like, just throwing out the track and field?
Oh, you mean
Like what it actually,
of
what the
potential costs
lifespan is,
of
what the
replacement, for
cost
example?
of
A
it is?
revised, yeah, revised cost and
Revised,
lifespan.
Yeah,
Yes.
And when we installed it versus, and how much we
Like
have set.
replacing it as a
Yeah,
total,
how much we
yeah.
have set
What's
aside for it
depreciation?
and how much we would
Yeah.
Okay.
need to. I was just curious, can we, and maybe it's too soon and it would be later, is, I guess, how our reading scores are doing through, because we've changed the way that we're doing our reading.
Yes.
I'll have to think about how I want that, so I'll come back to that,
Yes, I look
because that
forward to
doesn't
that.
have to,
Just looking at the metrics of
yeah.
new implementation of reading or
Reading
of reading
metrics.
strategies.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Did we ever come to a conclusion about the high school graduation numbers, or what was that? It was a bit still confusing to me how we had an extra elective and then we had a particular, like, 240 or.
so do you want, do you
So
want Glenn
That
to
will be
bring?
coming also.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so future board meeting date, it will be January 8th, 2025, or 2025 at 6
You guys will be
PM.
getting your stuff on January 1st or 2nd.
Oh, it's my kiddo's birthday.
Excuse me, probably the 2nd, apparently.
Oh, okay, at least it's the day after. That's okay. Okay, and then, I'm not
I
gonna.
move to adjourn.
Okay, trustee Garrison moves to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second. I'll second.
Oh, okay, so trustee Zekowitz seconds, preferential.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No nays, no abstentions. Okay, so we are adjourned at 7:57.